Welcome, forest friends. It's time to enter the forest and see what we discover. Open your mind and wander with us for a bit. Welcome back, forest friends. There is a moment in every healthy forest when growth turns outward again. After disturbance settles, after the dust clears and the light shifts, something quiet begins to happen. Shoots stretch, roots explore, pollen drifts on the breeze. The forest remembers that it was never meant to grow alone. This episode is called When the Forest Reaches Out Again. Because learning does not end with disruption. Disruption only prepares the ground. What comes next is reconnection. In the last episode, we explored how productive friction loosens rigid systems without destroying them. Today, we explore what happens when loosened systems begin to connect again. This is cross-pollination. This is the reopening of schema frills. This is the moment when ideas that once felt incompatible begin to recognize shared structure. Cross-pollination in cognition happens when a learner encounters a new perspective that does not feel like an invasion, but an invitation. It occurs when two schemas come close enough to notice resonance, something familiar, something shared. The brain does not ask, is this right or wrong? It asks, does this connect? This is why bridging paths matter more than presenting arguments. When people are offered bridges, they walk. When they are offered cliffs, they dig in. Schema frills are designed for this. Their purpose is exploration. They extend outward to test the environment, to search for overlap, to feel for compatibility. But frills only reopen when the nervous system believes it is safe to explore. Without safety, the forest stays inward-facing, even after disturbance. This is where relational trust becomes the invisible infrastructure of learning. Cross-pollination is not about agreement. It is about contact. It is about exposure without erasure. It is about encountering difference without losing self. When learners feel secure in their identity, they can afford to explore ideas that differ from their own. When identity feels fragile, every difference feels like a threat. This is why echo chambers persist even after disruption. Without connection, loosened systems often snap back into familiar shapes. But when connection is introduced at the right moment, something new can form. Think about how understanding moves between disciplines. Mathematical reasoning informs science. Narrative understanding deepens history. Pattern recognition in music mirrors. Pattern recognition in language. These connections do not emerge from isolation. They emerge from intentional overlap. From educators naming similarities. From leaders designing systems that allow ideas to travel. From families encouraging curiosity across boundaries rather than mastery within silos. Cross-pollination also occurs between people. When learners hear how others think, not just what they think, their own schema begin to stretch. When someone explains their reasoning rather than defending their conclusion, bridges form. The brain is remarkably good at recognizing structure across difference when it is allowed to listen without fear. This is why dialogue matters more than debate. Debate seeks victory. Dialogue seeks understanding. One hardens schema, the other softens it. In educational spaces, this means designing opportunities for learners to encounter multiple representations of the same idea. Multiple solution paths. Multiple narratives. Multiple voices. Comparison is not confusion when it is guided. It is fertilization. Cross-pollination also requires pacing. Ideas cannot be rushed across gaps that are too wide. The brain needs time to notice similarity, to test alignment, to decide whether to integrate. This is why learning feels slow when it is deep. Growth happens beneath the surface long before it becomes visible. Leaders play a critical role here. Systems that value coherence over conformity allow cross-pollination to thrive. When shared language exists across classrooms, departments, and roles, Ideas recognize one another more easily. The forest becomes interconnected instead of fragmented. This is also where narrative identity returns. Learners who see themselves as explorers rather than defenders engage differently with difference. They approach new ideas with curiosity instead of armor. This identity does not emerge by accident. It is modeled, reinforced, protected. Cross-pollination is fragile. It requires care. Too much exposure too quickly overwhelms. Too little leaves systems isolated. The art of learning lies in finding the moment when the forest is open enough to receive something new. As we close today's walk, remember this. Growth does not end when disturbance stops. That is only the beginning. The real work begins when systems reach outward again, when schema frills extend, when ideas drift across boundaries. When learners discover the difference can deepen understanding rather than threaten it. In the next episode, Forest Friend, we will explore how wisdom emerges when interconnected ideas stabilize over time, forming networks of meaning that guide judgment, empathy, and long-term decision-making. Until then, remember that no forest grows alone. Learning thrives when ideas are allowed to travel, meet, and transform one another. We'll see you on the next trail. Thanks for joining us on the Intellectual Hike, Forest Friends. Don't forget to visit us at www.alderbranch.org for more free resources and join our friends today. See you for another brain hiking adventure soon.